quality issues begin during the testing phase. They start much earlier, usually with leadership decisions. In this webinar, we're going to be talking about how testing leadership works within an organization, from execution and oversight to transformational management or workload planning. Areas that we're looking at today, there are very many, and hopefully we'll do additional webinars on some of the other points, are why testing should be treated as continuous quality instead of at a late stage checkpoint, how autonomy, trust, and clear ownership lead to stronger delivery, and what kind of ratio should you aim for with regards to your testing utilization. So, without further ado, let me introduce today's speakers. First, we have Gladys Tapia, a QA engineer and coach with over 15 years in IT. Gladys knows all about building quality first thinking within agile teams. And also, we have Stephen Platten, an award-winning QA expert and speaker known for his stoic leadership and resilience practices. Hi, I am Bruce Mason, Delivery Director at Quest Testfort, and will be guiding through today's conversation. If you have any questions, please write them down in the comments of the chat, and we will ask them at the end of the discussion. Okay, without further ado, let's make a start. So our first question, with regards to when testing should be introduced within as an overall project-based project. Apologies, I say I'm a bit tongue-tied today. Stephen, perhaps you could kick us off on this one.
Sure. So the question is, I hope you can hear me okay. The question is when to engage testing in a project or program of work as delivery is about to start, kick off.
Correct.
Use the cliched answer of as early as possible. Maybe go into that, what that means, and then maybe talk about some practical limitations and my own experiences of trying to do that. So depending on the maturity of an organization, testing is often seen as an activity that happens at the end. Once something has been built, something has been made, and it's an activity that has to happen before we can put something into production. It's often seen as a necessary evil, as opposed to something that provides additional value to the project other than something you just have to do. So if you go from that premise, the concept of bringing a tester in very early can be very alien to people, because the feedback you will often get is, why do I need a tester? We haven't got anything for you to look at yet. And I've had PMs say that to me directly. And my pushback onto that is, I don't need you to deliver something for me to test it. I can test a requirement. I can test an assumption. I can test a design. I can test a bias. I can test the database that you're looking at. There's lots of things I can test that don't require you to have built anything. Yep. The benefit of doing that, of getting me involved early or testers involved early, if you pick on requirements as an example, it's much easier to point out a requirement is deeply flawed or will lead to a critical defect much closer down the line, much further down the line, than it is to find that in the code base during functional testing and find there's a problem. It's much easier to stop that being built in the first place than it is to find that. And if I just want to add to, even though we know that's the case, why do we still not have that implemented with our clients and projects as often as we would like? It's quite challenging to tangibly measure that benefit. It's very hard to say, I've tested your requirements, we've gone through a review, we've improved it. That's prevented these 12 defects in the next 3 months. It's actually very hard to put that across, which I think is why clients and businesses sometimes struggle with the concept of engaging testers as early in the life cycle as possible. I don't know if anyone any points on any of that. Bruce or Gladys?
Gladys, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I will give you an example about when to start testing. Actually, as Stephen said, for me, testing is something that should start at the beginning, at the early stage of requirements gathering. For example, currently I'm writing some documentation about testing strategy in our project. And the thing is that I'm writing about API testing. We use a certain tool for API testing, which is allowing us to start testing the requirements. So because it is API first approach. So we, without writing any code, any line of code, just only mocking and modeling the API we would like to later on have them coded, we can start test everything. So from early stage. So that's the thing. I invite everyone to just ask one question for you. We tester, maybe we can start performing questions or raising questions in the early stage. And if there are no questions, when the development starts, my question is why it is happening. Is something weird in our requirements? Maybe everyone's is aligned. So that's the thing. We should start working at the beginning of our project, of course.
I completely agree with both your points. From my perspective, if we look at it, if it's an internal based project where effectively it's managed under one roof, then individuals might not want to allocate resources up front because they're taking them off different teams on their day-to-day work. If we look at a client supplier based relationship, clients might not want to pay for resources too early because they believe it's an additional expense. So those are the areas where organizations may feel, no, I don't really want to do that. However, the benefits that they actually get from both scenarios, I think you guys have portrayed them quite well here. I would just elaborate on that a little bit on my side. Clarity is extremely key from my perspective. Common understanding those corresponding requirements, and also at the same time, if you're actually defining either test checklists or test case scenarios, you can also validate those with the people that are actually expecting to see the corresponding results and ensure you've got that common expectation as to what constitutes success. From my perspective, that will get you your benefit in the very end, where a client or an internal organization expects to see what results are we actually going to get from this? What benefits are we going to realize? And to that end, as I say, understanding that and ensuring that is introduced within the testing as a collective as well, guarantees success to a point, obviously, because you can't guarantee 100% on every project, but doing that early on and ensuring that it's kind of like reviewed by your key stakeholders to ensure you're getting the buy-in. For me, that's a huge win because then you've got that common understanding and clarity to ensure you've got a baseline. I like baselines being an XPM to allow that all of those tests are in place, and then you can obviously go on and automate certain elements through a CI/CD to kind of like run them through corresponding environments. But I'm sure we'll be touching on that a little bit more. Guys, anything more on this particular area?
Yeah, maybe just one more point for me.
Yeah, sure.
I think I try and if I make a recommendation as a tester or as testers as a community, make a recommendation or try and instill something, and it doesn't work or it gets pushed back. The good way to look at it is look at it from the perspective of the other person, and I think you've touched on that, Bruce. Right? Is one of the examples why we can't shift left is projects go, well, I don't have the budget to bring you in now.
Yeah.
Right? I need to set that budget for actual development work, and I can't bring you in early. That's definitely one of the reasons. I think one of the other reasons is testers are unfortunately often the people in the room that are saying no. We're often the people in the room that are disagreeing with where the project is trying to get to. So be that a delivery date or way of working, etc. We're often the people that are disagreeing with the status quo, quite rightly, because our job is to identify risk, expose things that are potential poor quality, and outline to the business go, this is a problem. I don't think we should do X, Y, and Z. I don't think we should necessarily proceed. We don't have the authority to stop something, but we definitely have the authority to flag that as a problem. Definitely. And there is definitely a cultural challenge in being that person in the room that without it creating an us and them mentality where it's the rest of the project versus the testers and they're trying to stop it. It's a very fine line to balance, and I think testers need to develop that skill set as they mature in their careers. Is something that's really challenging.
Yeah, I completely agree. As I said, from my perspective, testers, I mean, you can see them as custodians, as with regards to quality on a corresponding project. And as I say, sometimes they get a bad rap. Especially against developers. Developers and I say testers are supposed to be like cats and dogs. From my perspective, on a good quality project, let's say they work together for that common goal. No project is delivered by one individual. It has to be a team-based effort. So yeah, I completely agree. Gladys, sorry.
Yep. Also, I would like to add one thing. I've seen in several projects that testers are the owner, or they have the ownership of having the big picture, the view of the big picture. Why? Because we are like normally or usually we are digging around, right? And we are looking for how our product is from the big picture view, and then we are going to the details. And this is very good, very important also, because this way we can help to our developers to understand the interactions, right, between different components or layers of our product. This is one thing. And the second is about bridges. We testers are building bridges between different areas or different types of developers. For example, the guys, sometimes the projects are divided in, we have one team developing the front end, and we have the backend team, and we have the data team, and they are not talking between. They are not talking one to other. So testers, many times we are doing this passing water from one side to another side, and we are building community around the projects. So I think that testing is not only important because from the test perspective, but also from the relation or human interaction perspective. So when the testers are active inside the projects, you will see that the project is more stable and more trustable also. Yeah.
Great. No, I completely agree with that. There's one area that I do want to touch on as part of this. It's kind of like on the peripheral edge. We, as an organization, from time to time, work with a variety of kind of startup organizations, for want of a better phrase. And they've gone away and they've sourced kind of their development team already, and they bring an application or even a website that they've actually built to us. And then they turn around and say, I built it. I've done some sanity checks myself, but I need to put it live, and we need someone that's got the skills to actually just go in and test it completely and make sure that it stands up. Obviously, it's not the best scenario in the world, but some clients choose to work like that. And in a startup-based environment, I can understand, obviously, trying to keep the costs low and not engage until you've actually physically built a service. But then clients turn around and say to you, okay, I need to go live in a week, 2 weeks, and that's the window you've got to test it. Test as much as you possibly can. Obviously, not understanding a product, having obviously just seen it for the first time, been given a deadline to actually physically complete it. The testers, with the best will in the world, can only do as much testing based on their understanding of the service, the requirements that are actually documented, and the time available. I sometimes don't think clients, I say, understand that obviously, but you obviously have to portray the corresponding risks, which Stephen touched on as part of that, and turn around and say, okay, we can do this and we'll happily support you. However, as an output from this, you'll get a risk report from us saying, this is what we've tested. This is what we recommend. The risk ownership is the client's. To understand whether that's a choice they choose to put it live. It happens, and it's going to happen again, where, as say, organizations choose to work that way. As part of our organization, we have to obviously understand that.
I think it's good to constructively challenge some of the the fallacies that the clients would talk about, because you mentioned a few there. It's like, I want you to fully test it. I don't know what fully tested means. I could test something forever if you give me enough.
Yes, it's a quantification.
So testing it to a point where I have enough information to make a decision. And that decision carries, I have my risk tolerance is this much. Therefore, my testing needs to be this much to give you enough information to have a good understanding of the risk. Would be one of the fallacies that we need to always still challenge. The other one is like thoroughly test it. So if you're going to go to thoroughly, do you mean you want me to do performance testing, security testing, test the back end? Like, you've given me a week, you've given me no tools, I've got no licenses, no budget. I'm purely acting for maybe UI or an API layer. I'm really limited on what thoroughly tested means. Very surface level. Something I'm seeing as a challenge in the current projects is, again, with very compressed timelines. And I've said there's two approaches. There's more than two, but I'm just simplifying for the sake of argument. One is we can go very wide and very shallow, right, which will give you some sort of information back. Or we can go very narrow and we can go very deep. And there's pros and cons to both approach. I'm always going to advocate deeper testing is more valuable than something that's shallow, because we'll find those really deep-rooted problems that are going to be the issues in production. All the surface-level stuff is going to kind of come out in the wash. So again, it's making sure that the clients that do put those kind of limitations or those guardrails on you, that they know that this leads to this. So testers, you have to work with what you've got. You have to work with the budget you've been given, the kind of the work that you've got. It's just be considerate of it.
Okay. Yeah. Completely understood. Yeah, that's a fair point. As I say, from my perspective, it always comes down to the risk element on that, and it's not something that we as an organization can take on the corresponding risk. All we can do is identify those for the client to make an educated decision based on the situation. You know, it's about making that clear up front that it's the client's responsibility at the end of the day for us to provide them the information and make that educated decision. Yeah. Okay.
Also, right. Bruce, also the thing about how we speak with our client or talk to our clients. The thing is that many times, for example, when I worked for big consultancy companies, we were not, let's say, correct speaking to the clients, because we said we are going to test everything or as much as possible. But I always try to say to my clients that, hey guys, we are going to test, but what we are going to do is raise the risks, your risks that you are going to handle with them and decide what is okay and what is not okay for you to go to the production. But we as testers, we need to change our vocabulary and really use words like risks and agreements. But for me, risk and trust, that's the thing. Not everything is tested, because this way is our epic fail.
I agree. I completely agree. And again, it's about managing, as say, your stakeholders' expectations.
Exactly.
Ideally, as early as possible, as per the testing that we're discussing. We're starting to see some questions come through, which we'll cover off the end, guys. From my perspective, looking at time, we could talk about this one, I think, for some time more. However, I think what we need to do to ensure we get coverage of all the key points, let's move on to our next topic. So here we have transformational leadership. Empowering teams through autonomy and trust creates stronger, more resilient delivery. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about. Gladys, maybe let's start with you on this particular one. What are your thoughts on this particular area for transformational leadership?
Well, about transformation leadership, I think from my experience, I think everything is starting from the leader, how and from the team. Okay, what happened in my case? I had with me a great big team, but I started building it step by step. We started at six people, teammates, and then this team increased to 40. And the thing was that my approach was to build a team which is let's say, high performance team. Yeah, this was my aim always. So what I did was build trust inside the team, build creativity, build a safety place where my team is able to explain their problems and mistakes also. Okay. And what I tried a lot, because some of the team members were seniors but many were juniors or newbies in testing, what I started is to help them to grow and develop their skills. And we did plenty of different activities to do that, but everything started from me, because I realized that I need to prepare myself to help them to grow. So for me, the transformation is coming from the leaders. The leaders should work on their own soft skills, and then build trust inside the team and start working with the team. Yeah, that's
On a team of 40 odd, as I said, from my perspective, that you also need to instill that mentality into some of your seniors, because
exactly.
you as an individual can't obviously promote that day to day for all of them all of the time. So it's about obviously giving them that guidance as well and moving that.
Exactly. What I had to do is build my team structure. Okay, I first identify team members that were in a senior position, that were able to understand what I want to do with the team, and then we started to spread this idea to the rest of the team members. Yeah.
Stephen, let's bring you back in on this one. I'm sure you've got some points of view.
Yeah, sure. So Bruce might already know, but I'm ex-armed forces, so transformational leadership as a style of leadership is something that I'm very familiar with, and try to do, and was led by people that were like that. And for me, that is there's a couple of things, and I'm going to try and maybe just give some practical things. I think that's most beneficial for the audience. As an example would be an acceptance of failure and acceptance of mistakes. If your team is not willing to tell you they've made a mistake, if your team is not willing to tell you that they've got something wrong, the team doesn't feel safe, and you're never going to learn and you're never going to improve. So not setting unnecessarily high standards for people that aren't achievable by everybody. So I think that would be one. It doesn't mean I don't strive for them to do extremely good work, but I want them to tell me that they don't know, they don't understand. It's really, really important. Practical tip. Second one is be about what you're talking about. Which sounds like a bit of a throwaway line, but you can't be the person excelling people to work hard, do their best, be open and honest, if you are not doing that yourself. So if you're a contradiction to the kind of values you're trying to create, it's not going to work. If that isn't for you, it isn't for you, but you need to embody those qualities and traits. Getting to know, so this is quite an interesting one, but like getting to know people, the third point would be like, I've heard people say that I'm at work with that I'm not bothered about making kind of any social connection with this person at work, because you're just a work colleague, and I'm going to go off, I'm going to log off, I'm going to go home, and I'm not going to worry about because I'm only at work. Right, and I totally understand that, and that's definitely a way you can live your life. But I don't see the downside to creating a deeper connection with the people that I'm working with. I'm not saying everyone has to be my friend, but at the same time, getting to know the people that you're working with, what makes them tick, what their interests are, builds a closer social bond. The reason why the forces can achieve some of the things it does is because everyone is working from a very shared experience. Everyone's been through the same training, through the same stuff that's challenging, let's say. So we all have a shared understanding. We're all coming from a shared presence. Unity is what builds strength, and creating that connection with people. Again, you don't have to be everyone's friend, is what I'm advocating, but having a solid connection with your team and understanding who they are and what makes them tick is also a massive part of being a transformational leader, because it means they feel comfortable to kind of go off and do the task. The best person I've ever worked for was very good at going, here is my problem, I don't care how you achieve the outcome, fix the problem, and then they're the resources available to you. Come back to me if you need some support or guidance. Go off and do it. very freeing, and I think that's the only way you want to get people to get to. I don't want to be the person that says, there's a problem with this regression pack, guys. I think we need to work on it. I want some of my team to come to me and go, Steve, this regression pack is an issue with it, and I think we should do X, Y, and Z to fix that. Awesome. Yes. Go off and do task. That's when you know you've really hit the goal.
Yeah. No, I agree. Say with those points that you're making. As I say, from my perspective, having worked as a project manager as well, as I said, it is extremely important that you have a team that, as I say, effectively trusts each other to work with on day to day. And if you can instill that personal level just a little bit, as I say, with the corresponding team, ideally from the leaders down. But as I said, at the same time, that doesn't mean the individuals can't, as I say, relate to each other as well. Understanding, as you said, what makes an individual tick gives you a better understanding as to how they're going to do the day-to-day work, in this instance, testing. And as such, the way they're going to react when something actually occurs. Yeah, and that's what it's all about. And as I say, effectively working together collaboratively to ensure that you get to the common goal. And yes, you've got people that do come to you and go, penny drop, and say, there's a problem. How are we going to fix that? Yeah, I'd much rather, as you quite rightly said, we've got this corresponding problem, and the person that brings the problem to you is suggesting a solution. That implies trust, as you said, to that they understand how you want to work and that they believe that they can come to you with the corresponding answers. That's a good functioning team that works in that corresponding way, and it's a good management structure because they understand that they know that they can come to you, and as I say, you'll help them to manage that corresponding scenario, and if necessary, take it upstairs. Yeah. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah. Gladys, any additional thoughts from you?
Yeah. Also, what I figured out is that everyone is unique. That's the thing. Okay. So, and everyone has a superpower. Actually, when I interviewed my new joiners, the new team members, before they in the interviews, I asked them about their superpower. Which one is it? Why? And it was very funny because some of the people, they were like struggling to identify it, and I said to them, okay, it's totally perfect, you don't know which one is it, but later on I will ask you in the future when you are inside the team. And actually after a few months I re-asked that question, and they've been able to say, yes, my superpower is I don't, I'm very structured, and I'm able to create structure from anything. And I said, perfect. Or I'm patient. I realized that I'm a very patient person. And I said, look, that's nice. But the thing is, everyone is unique. So in the teams, sometimes what is happening is that the people, they think that they should be the best achiever, the best performer, and it's not correct. You cannot do everything. You cannot be like technical skilled and have all soft skills in perfect shape and whatever. Maybe there is only one area that you are very good, but in the other area is good someone else. But if we work together and we're using all our skills together, then our team is more stronger. Okay, so this was one thing that I tried to explain my team to understand, that we have to use our capabilities to achieve our goal. Okay, this one was one thing, and the other one was about trust. I don't know if you've seen one video of Simon Sinek talking about Navy SEALs. He's very famous talking about Navy SEALs, right? And he said about trusting, that Navy SEALs, they say, okay, what is trust for them? They will when they trust to leaving their family and their money or wife to one person, something like that. And I was thinking about that.
The quote is, I will trust you with my life if I'll trust you with my wife.
Exactly, this one. And I was thinking about that in a part of Navy SEALs. Is that applicable to my territory? Yes, it is. Actually, I did that. I trust several people. I trusted several people in my team, and I gave them the key of my house and my children inside to take care of them because I needed to do other stuff. So the thing is about that, create those relationships, as you, Stephen, said. I'm not going to have the relationship, personal relationship with everyone, but yes, I can maybe trust many of my team members. So that's the thing.
Okay. From my perspective, just to extend on that, I'm talking on comms a little bit. Again, it's instilling trust. Gladys pointed out that no two people are the same. As I say, they're individuals in their own right. And as such, in discussions, open discussions, especially if you've got a team like Gladys is talking about 40 people, you're going to have people that are going to stand out. And those are going to be the people that talk all
Exactly.
the time. But as part of that, let's say it's a leader's responsibility to bring in the people that sit in the corner and bring in their ideas into that corresponding conversation as well, because they may be sitting there on a brilliant idea. They just don't have the confidence to stand up and say it. So to that end, it's about engaging with all of the corresponding team to bring them in, and if necessary, saying, hold on a second, I just wanted to hear from this particular person. Maybe they've got something interesting that they'd like to bring to it. It also instills trust as well, where effectively, someone's interested in my opinions. So again, it's about that collective with regards to the communications, in drawing people in and ensuring that everybody has a voice as part of it. From a team-based perspective. Okay. Any more comments on this particular area before we move on? Okay.
You're done.
One quick note from, as I say, my management team within the organization. We are currently offering free QA audits to all our guests on this webinar. So it's a straightforward review to give leaders a clear, independent picture of whether their testing approach is working within their organization. So in the event that anybody is interested as part of that, please use the QR code or click on the link in the chat to request your audit. So just a quick one for people. We're looking at working with, as I say, different people to provide an additional service there. Okay, let's move on to, as I say, our final topic area for today. Workload balance. What is a good utilization rate that helps sustain creativity, avoid burnout, and maintain consistent quality within a team? Stephen, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, I've been it's a difficult, maybe challenging questions, but I've been on both sides of the scale. So what I mean is I've been nice, easy, less than 40 hours a week, kind of, this is quite good. I've got lots of free time. Like during COVID and lockdown was a good example where the workload kind of dropped down with lots of free time in the background. I've also been on the operational side in the forces where we would do kind of 40-hour shifts. So working for 40 hours, rest for 24, work for 48. As you can imagine, that's the complete opposite end of the scale there. I think what I would say is that something like that, in terms of work-life balance, it's not necessarily something that's consistent, right? So it's not, I'm going to consistently, week to week, always work this rough hours. There's going to be peaks and troughs depending on the ask from the business and the ask from work. You might have to do additional hours because of a release, or you're covering a weekend because of something's going into production. But knowing that someone else, as well as yourself, has got to look out for those signs of fatigue and those signs of stretch that are going to create problems where you're going to miss something, your mental health or your physical health is going to be impacted. It's not something that's sustainable. I certainly last year probably worked way too many hours when I looked at my timesheets. And it's, I think, something you need to be honest with yourself and have someone in your team who can also keep you kind of looking after yourself. If you're a kind of person that is naturally inclined to work longer and harder, it's just like the default state, I'm just going to pedal to the metal, go for it. You probably want someone in your team or your circle that is there to rein you back And vice versa. If you're someone who it just needs to be pushed a little bit to kind of get that extra workload out of you, again, you want someone on your team who can push you to get that extra work in as and when needed.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Gladys.
Yeah, from my perspective, workload balance is very difficult to maintain under control. Why? Because sometimes our clients, they are don't understanding about about that we are not machines, right? And what is happening? What we need to understand is how the client is working. How is the style of our client? And definitely along the year there are some months that are very heavy, hard working and whatever, and then we are resting, right? On summer, on our Christmas holidays, everything is like more flat, less work. So for me, the first thing we have to do inside the projects is understand and identify where we can expect the hard working part. Okay. And we have to start preparing as soon as possible for deliveries that are going to have many tests, and we have to think about maybe we can use some automation for that period. Maybe we will need more people, or maybe we have to prepare our people to be really like aware that maybe we will have to work more. But the thing is also that those high peaks of workload are good moment to start feeling burnout and feeling like tired from the project. That the people during that period are very feeling sad, and they are feeling without energy and whatever. So the team leader should be there to support them and to show them, hey guys, I'm here leading you in good times, but always in or also in bad times. So I'm with you. How can I help? So my first tip is prepare yourself, identify and understand your client first, and ask for delivery times, when exactly they are, when are the targets of our the heavy deliveries, right? Second, prepare yourself, thinking about automation, thinking about preparing your team, how to handle the stress and whatever, and also organize your weeks or days. So you have to have a structure along your day. Don't stay sitting and writing all the time or testing all the day. This is not healthy. Okay, so you have to take your time to also to procrastinate a little bit, or to have time to take coffee with something and chat about other stuff which is not work. So those are my tips.
Yeah, clients often don't think about other activities that need to occur alongside a corresponding project. For example, a client would expect an individual to say do 40 hours of straight testing in a week. Yeah,
Okay.
standard working week, for example, or 37.5. However, what the client doesn't think about in these particular scenarios are, well, hold on a second, we need to do reviews with regards to what we found so far. We need to discuss risks. We need to look at the defects that we've got coming through. We need to prioritize those. Those are all activities that take place on a corresponding project. You can't get 40 hours of just straight through testing. It just doesn't happen. All of that has to take place as part of a standard working week as well. So client just needs to be reminded, and again, it's a leader's responsibility to act on behalf of a corresponding team to ensure that the client remembers those activities need to take place as well, because they are equally as important, and sometimes more so, specifically where you're reviewing corresponding risks for the client to make a decision. So these all have to happen as well. So the 80% rule that we are talking about, as I say, as part of this initial discussion, It's a good yardstick for starting point to ensure that you've got that 20% contingency there. That 20% allows for these particular activities. That doesn't mean to say that the rest of the time, for example, if the activities take up only 5-10%, that the tester just sits there, okay, I've got 10% time, I'll sit and have coffee and read a paper. Testers aren't like that anyway, and most normal people aren't. So to that end, it just allows, additional activities to be progressed as well. That contingency is there for a reason, to ensure that the team as a collective or an individual don't get burnout, because if they get burnt out, they're no good to the project anymore until they've recuperated, which then potentially means you have to bring in an additional person, which doesn't understand the project. They've got to get up to speed, and as such, that's counterproductive as well from a management perspective. So the team collectively having the right hierarchy and structure should have management there to support it, and leadership to assist the team to ensure they don't get burnout, to ensure they are not overloaded. That doesn't mean to say that there are going to be times during the overall project's life cycle where you have peaks and troughs that effectively all of a sudden, as Gladys mentioned, that, as I say, you hit a spike, and as such, you have to deal with it. So you rally the team, and effectively they go for it, and they fix the issue, and then you get back down to stable ground. There may be even times where effectively you have lulls. Christmas, bank holidays, where effectively people get some additional downtime. Okay, that's again good for team motivation to effectively then come back refreshed and start again. These are all key points. What you can't have is a team that is continually working at peak workload. It's not good for motivation. It's not good for trust on the team, because the team don't trust the leadership to support them to hold off the client from doing it in that particular way. So it's very important that, as I say, those peaks and troughs come in a way that ensure that the team is protected as a collective, to provide the overall results that the client needs, and, as I say, the success that the project needs.
Yeah.
So just some additional thoughts on my guys. Any additional, as I say, thoughts on those comments, or any additional points that we think our people would benefit from?
Yeah, just a quick one on workloads, or just work generally, is the perception of what work is. So some managers and some leaders require you to see the work happening. See you logged on, you're in a Teams call, you're doing something. I want to see you running scripts. I want to see you executing code. I want to see you doing stuff. Work doesn't exist unless it can be perceived. Right. So where I'm going with, a lot of my time as a consultant is I just think about stuff. I want time in my day to do nothing but think. And my thinking might mean me going for a walk, or not being on my terminal for a 20-minute, half an hour period where I'm not in the problem. I'm doing something else, and my brain is allowed the bandwidth to come up with a solution to that problem. Thinking is work, and not doing anything but thinking is work that needs to be allowed and needs to be factored in, which not just doing busy work, which is I like to refer to it. Like, a lot of people are obsessed with filling the day with busy work, when in reality the thinking is the really important part that we sometimes miss, because we're trying to fill the hours with more meetings and emails and stand-ups and calls about stuff. I want time to just think sometimes.
It's a good point. Yes. Good point.
And also, it's very good to share, have a quality conversation inside the team. What I mean is sharing problems, sharing insights, sharing what I did, what I discovered. Why? Because maybe with that conversation you can open doors for another problem of other person. So the whole team is able to learn, right? And sort out some problems that maybe 10-15 minutes were like, oh, it's a big mess. Yeah.
No team, I mean, teams go through different processes when they're brought together. Storming and norming is the classic example with regards to the phrase. And you may get storms along the way as well, that you need to deal with. That's a leader's responsibility to work with those and ensure that they're calmed down. But it happens, and sometimes the storms can come from other outside of the corresponding team as well. So again, it's about ensuring that continuity, but the main bulk is the norm processing on day to day to ensure, and then when the exceptions do occur, then being reactive and ensuring that the team is protected as part of that from both a personal and a professional based perspective. Okay. Conscious of time, guys, I suggest that we now move on to some of the questions that we've got from our people watching the corresponding webinar. Let's start with the first one. Okay. In a lot of projects, requirements can't be defined up front fully. If they include some exploration, e.g. make this feature better usable, where the team first has to find out what better means. Yeah, we had that discussion already. How can you handle testing in such agile or exploratively scenarios? I mean, from my perspective, it's about refining those requirements down. My wife is a business analyst, and I was a business analyst at one point. From my perspective, ambiguity is a killer. So to that end, you really need to understand what constitutes, as I say, the physical requirements that are actually needed. So it's about ensuring that, as I say, you go to the area, e.g. a client, to effectively refine that down to be in a position whereby you can understand what constitutes success, what is actually physically needed. Now, at the start, when, for example, like a startup-based organization, yeah, it may be loose. But as you move on, that has to define into specific requirements that can be expanded throughout. For example, you can't have, as I say, performance-based tests, as I say, that are ambiguous. Because you've got no idea of what success is there, and then, as I say, the whole thing could just collapse. So, guys, any additional thoughts on this? Just opening that out.
Yeah, sure. Let's go like worst case scenario. So like what Bruce is saying there, ideally refinement, improvement, remove that ambiguity, and you've got something that's easy to test against. Let's say you don't. Right? Let's say that you for whatever reason you're in the project late, the requirement is incredibly ambiguous. You need to go back to what is the requirement trying to give the business, what is the user trying to achieve with what that requirement is asking of them, and come at it from that perspective, right? So if I can't find how they want the site to have a level of performance, they haven't defined that performance threshold. It's just like, I want it to be fast. Well, my tests are going to be like, well, let me give you what fast might mean. So
yes.
The response time is less than 10 seconds. Response time of this UI is under a minute. Like, this report takes 2 minutes to run. Like those are the numbers that I'm seeing when I test it. Is that good or bad? And then retrospectively going back and going, yeah, we think that's good now. We're going to make that the requirement. That sometimes kind of testing, informing the requirement has to happen and being very pragmatic with it. If that ambiguity is completely blocking you and you just don't know how to start, there's plenty of material online from other great testers out there, James Bax and other people of the world that come with lots of techniques to help you tackle that ambiguity. So don't feel you're penciled into just working on yourself in isolation. Reach out to the other communities and forums around on the internet and look for guidance on what to do in those scenarios. Obviously not sharing client details where applicable.
Yes, completely agree with that statement. So yeah, flipping it on its head or utilizing external resources is a brilliant point. Gladys, any additional thoughts?
From my perspective, in Agile environment, we use 3 amigos session, PO, QA, and development. And if the requirements are too ambiguous, then just let's have a meeting like that and let's start talking about the requirement. And that's it. Here the tester or QA is asking questions about and explaining why this requirement is ambiguous and not clear, and PO and developers, they can explain their point of view. So here is the traction, no? The interaction between those three to clarify.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answered your question. Let's move on to our next one. How do you recommend balancing shift left prevention with shift right validation in agile workflows with evolving requirements? Stephen, thoughts on this one? Want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm just going to move the screen. I can read the question myself. How do you recommend balancing shift left prevention versus shift right?
Interesting question, right?
Yeah, good, right. So I think a way to look at it would be, where are the problems coming up, right? So if the problems are coming up early in the life cycle, the requirements are poor, the architecture isn't well thought out, then shift it left, right, 100% and trying to pull that quality in. If, however, you're seeing lots of issues post-production release, right, so your pipelines are falling over or you're seeing lots of production incidents, then you need to move your shifting to the right. As much as people always say shift left, shift right, what they should be saying is, where are the problems in my life cycle? Apply the rationale or the methodology that will try and give me information in that gap. So to balance it is, where are the problems falling out in your life cycle, and apply your shift right to left and right techniques appropriately to cover those gaps and get the information that you need.
Gladys, anything to add on that one?
Honestly, I will say honestly, shift right validation I never seen. So that's the thing. Shift left, yes. So here I can give a great answer for Mauro. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at our next one. So how would you handle having to let someone go from the team who isn't performing without affecting overall morale within the corresponding team? Gladys, you've got a team of 40.
Yeah. This was something that I had.
This must have happened at some point within that size of the team.
Yes, and that size, yes. So, well, I asked to that affected team one question, which was, okay, guys, we already know that we have one of our members, which is good member, a good person. We love that person, but is low performer, is not working as the team needs. So we already know that that person should move to another position, better to better project for that person. So what we will, my question was, guys, look, are you all open to bring that person in your back all the project, suffering and doing more hours because that person is not doing his job? And they said no. I said, so are you okay? Are we okay with this decision? But it was a kind of conversation with all the team that was affected. Okay. And they, at the end, they said, okay, we are really sad to say goodbye, but it's the best and the most honest action that we as team can do. So it was an agreement, and that's it. But we had to think about, this person is affecting our project, is affecting our situation. Yeah, exactly. So the best opportunity to see him shining is letting him go to another place, another position, which will be great for that person, but not in that team.
Yes.
And that's it. Very open conversation with the team.
Yeah. Stephen, jump in.
Sure. Let me spin it through a stoic lens. So the second part of the question is, without affecting overall morale. So my question back to them is, like, can you affect how somebody feels? I can't. I can try and make my wife happy, but sometimes she's not happy. Sometimes she's mad at me. I don't control how someone reacts. I don't control how someone emotionally interprets the situation that occurred. So first thing to understand is the idea that I can prevent someone in the team from getting upset by it. It's not going to happen. If they're going to get upset, they're going to get upset. It doesn't mean I can't do something to remediate that, but I can't control someone else. First thing, I accept that. Second thing is, remove the ego and the personal from the question. What I mean by that is, if you have to fire somebody or let somebody go because their performance isn't good enough, that is what you're releasing them for. Not because they're a bad person or you don't like them or you don't get on with them. The bar is here. You're not hitting the bar. It's all good, man. Like, no criticism of you. It's just criticism of your performance in this instance. As long as I'm assuming you've gone through steps to try and improve it, you've got to release the person. The second thing is understanding it is not the end of the world, right? You've lost a position, you've been removed from someone, some of the team is no longer changed. Things will always change. People will always leave. People will always join. It's never going to be the same. If you want stability in the team to never change, it's a negative thing to be into. I've had loads of jobs in my life. I've been let go from some. I've released people myself from contracts and whatnot. Life moves on. Life will find a way. Work will find a way, and eventually it'll work out. I think I'm very positive in those kinds of things. It's just an opportunity for that person to explore another avenue, and I don't think it's necessarily always a bad thing.
Very, very good points. As I say, I was going to also mention keep it professional, as I say, not personal, as part of the process. Steve already covered that one as part of his explanation. I have nothing more to add, as I say, from my side. So good points from our people here. Okay, the last question that we have: how can we get business more interested in getting involved in UAT testing? There are quite a few times when UAT testing is needed, but they have more important stuff to do. This means the release gets delayed. I'm going to stick my project management hat on very quickly on this before I pass this over to my colleagues. The first thing I will try and say is, okay, if that scenario is arising, you need to talk with your business sponsor, which is usually at C-level. In the event that people are not willing to come forward, your sponsor, who is the C-level person that supported the project in the first place, it's their responsibility to go to the business and turn around and say, we have to test this because it's in our collective interests to do so. They are the one that needs to get the buy-in from the corresponding teams that are going to be utilizing the software. So to that end, that's a key position from an overall top-level management position. From a lower-level management position, my expectation is that obviously teams can do that as well directly, but as I say, it has to come from a level of ownership above. But I'm going to bring in, as I say, my colleagues now. What are your thoughts on this one?
Go for a project at the moment, and this is a very contentious subject, which is I quite like the question. So again, he flips a stoic lens on it. I can't make people do it. Even if I can make people do it, I can't make them spending as much time and as much diligence as I would do it. Right. So UAT is going to be all over the place. You might get UAT there's 5 pages of feedback on what I found and what I think the problem is. Or I might get to someone email that goes back, yeah, it's fine. Right. I can't control that. It's just the nature of people, right? People will never care about testing as much as you are, because if they would be testers. So accept that. Okay, ignoring all that stuff. Practical things. Don't just have them repeat your scripts. Don't just give them what you've tested and go, can you repeat all those test suites for us? No, they're not going to do that in real life. So why would you ask them to use them?
Yes.
All I would say is give them some loose structure and just say, use it like you would use it for real. Here's maybe a checklist for you to follow, or a list of items I want you to look at, but I don't want to tell you how to do it. I just want you to kind of get on with it. You can do it, so then just give them the free time to get on it when they can. I would also look at sometimes, like, instead of picking hours and time slots for people to work in, it's just trying to get everyone in for a day and just all smash it in a day. Like, everyone get on it. Let's all do it for a day. Get it all out of the way, then it's done. We'll stop bothering with the emails. We'll stop doing meeting invites. We'll all come in. We'll do it for a day. We'll sign it all off. We're happy. We'll move on with our lives. That's also an approach that I've seen really, really well, where they kind of just bite the bullet and go, okay, let's everyone get on a call and do it in one go. That's also a thing that works.
Thank you. Gladys.
From my perspective, I totally agree about the sponsor. So reaching sponsor is their responsibility to really be aligned with UAT and business about this topic. But when I started in testing, actually, it was my first experience. I was participating in UAT, and what I've seen was that UAT works pretty well when you are on site with the user, sitting with users and seeing how they and helping them to test. But you are here with them, and what I did is create relationship with them. So they enjoy the time with me testing. I've seen their first reactions, and I was noting I was so taking note of everything they said about the application they've been testing, and it was super nice to me learn from in that area, because learn about testing in that area. Why? Because it was my first experience, and I think that it was the best UAT testing I ever had after. So if I compare with the UAT testing after later in other companies, nothing. The first one was the best one. So create a relationship with them, try to be on site with them, sitting with them and observing how they work, and they should observe how you work also with application. I think that's it. And sponsor,
Okay.
of course.
All right, thank you. The one thing I will also say on this is the assumption is that this software is actually going to be used by users at the end, hence the user acceptance testing. As such, it's actually in their interests to see it. So if it doesn't work in a way that they would like it to work, they've got the opportunity to influence how it is before it's actually rolled out on mainstream. So normally you usually get users that are very interested in this because they can actually help out to see how it's going to work beforehand and go, oh no, we don't work like that, we work like this. And you kind of collaborate the day-to-day process with the system so that you end up with a good working solution. So that's my additional thought on that one, guys. So okay, conscious of time as well. Luckily we have no more additional questions. However, what we'll do is we'll post the video online, and if anybody has got additional questions as a follow-up, by all means, please respond, and we'll come back to you as quick as we can, say with answers. I'd like to say thank you to Gladys and Stephen for being, say, here today and imparting their knowledge. And again, thank you to also the people that are listening for, say, on the webinar. So thank you very much for your time, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Adios. Bye.